us have to make the decision over. So if you'll be patient with me tonight, we're going to go.
Everybody got copies, so 62 and 63?
Yes, ma'am.
You know,
I don't know why you got that.
Can we vote for 50%?
sorry,
Can we vote for 50%?
Not yet.
we need one more.
Marvin's coming. There he is. He's coming.
All right.
I talked to him a little bit ago.
All right, we're golden.
So, Mr. Moore, we have selected you to lead us in prayer. If you'll come on up, sir. The Board of Aldermen meeting, special call meeting for October 25, 6:30 p.m. is called to order. At this time, our invocation will be led by our own Alderman Marvin Moore.
Thank you, sir.
We bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this gathering, O Lord, knowing that you will always be present when we are here, O Lord. We ask you to continue to clear our minds and our hearts and our souls, O Lord, that we will make good decisions, O Lord. And, O Lord, when we leave here, let us be on one accord. This we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Will you remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Our clerk, Mrs. Donna Stewart, will give us our roll call.
Moore,
Here.
Lindsay,
Here.
Askew,
Here.
Bell, McCoy, Arvid,
Here.
McDonald.
All right. We have a quorum here, which allows us to constitute a meeting. At our preliminary, I was letting our group know that it became a meeting not necessarily as a choice of mine, but because we do need to handle some business on tonight. If we'll forego the other parts to go down to the items that we have. All right. Oh, that's him right here then? Yeah, you can't pull that one. So, just pick it up and move it over.
Your chair.
It's the audio video people over there.
Audio
What do
man.
they do for a living anyway?
Yeah. All right. Forgive us. So it's on this side. We have two resolutions before us on tonight. Can we go straight into our resolutions at this time? Resolution number 6222 is introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 6222, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Camden, Arkansas, rescheduling the date for the regular council meeting in November 2022.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. We're ready for discussion. 6222.
We didn't have
I didn't have.
but I know what it's doing. It's changing.
So, yeah, what we're asking is that since November the 8th is actually election day, I'd really love to free up ourselves, some of us who are on that list, so that we could be with our own family and friends if we desire to, for that particular evening. And instead of having us clustered here and a group clustered there, I just think it'd be wisdom for us to just switch the date and just come back the next week. Is there any discussion? Those in favor use voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it in resolution number 6222. The next resolution that we have before us on tonight is resolution number 6322, which is introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 6322, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Camden, Arkansas, amending the annual operating budget for 2022 and for other purposes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We ready for discussion?
Yes.
All right. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask if this is really necessary, and some of that goes to Mr. Fry. I mean, we've got minor budget, I'm gonna say minor budget items. This seems a little more significant, apparently, and Kevin's not here to address it.
No, well, I mean, I think there's an $11,000 bill that came in, for parts for repairs, and I think there's 5,300 in the account or so. So there's not enough in the account to pay the bill in that line item.
Well, and I guess my point is, there are little things that come up, utility bills, we can't average that. If they run over to the end of the year, we come to the end of the year and we say, we adjust them all to what we spent. I'm wondering, is there I think I understand why we would do this if it was an item that we were having to bid out and take something like that. But I'm gonna call it minor stuff, a little bit of office supplies, utility bills, we always, or have in the past, run over. We didn't go through and make a special adjustment for them.
Well, if, we did look at that, and I would say it is minor. I mean, it is
Yeah.
small, we're close on the budget. I think we budgeted a total of 45 this year for parts for that line item. And so we've got an $11,000 part, we've got $5,000 in there. If it happens in December, I think what we've been doing is not paying the bill, but when we come and do the end of the year, budget reconciliation, they can pay the bill after that. So the problem is with this one, we're in October now, like if we just said, we're not gonna do anything until we adjust the budget at the end of the year, that would put the bill going into January. So the bill really can't be paid until the treasurer sees that there's enough in that line item.
So if our utilities or our gas purchases, that's the other one that's run over. I've been here 25 years, we've never had to adjust it when our gas bill ran over when gas prices went up. I'm just curious of why this one is like this, but I'm okay with it. Do we do it for every little nickel and dime item?
Well, I mean, the way I see it, or the only I can come up with is that at the end of the year, if it's in December and we're over budget, let's say we have a gas bill for $1,000 and we're at 300. The council's gonna approve an end of the year reconciliation, and once that's done, the bill is paid. So, but I think it usually happens in the last month, so you don't have three months ahead of time. I think, yeah, if we go over budget 3 months ahead of time, the treasurer's not gonna pay that bill because it's not in the line item for that budget.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion?
I just got a question. I mean, with what we doing here with this, from 45 to 55, I mean, do we have a truck down? I mean, I know you say we trying to pay for parts and this and that, but I mean, we trying to fix some equipment, right?
I do not know that.
Okay.
I mean, I just was presented, I know there's a bill that came in, and it was for repair parts, who it was from, but I can't tell you what vehicle it's for.
Okay.
We already got the part, I assume, we probably already got it back on the road,
That's kind of
probably worked on it, I would assume, because this is the bill that came in.
right. Yeah, this is that correcting something. I think in the midst of some of our communicating with him, I think some of us have told him just fix it, just keep everything moving. And when you said that to him, he did that, and he didn't have my permission to do that. But some of you guys, when you call him and give him advice, it kind of impacts me wrongly. So we have to fix it because he went and got the money. We only got the part to keep the city moving. So I'll have it under better hands. This practice won't be normal. So you don't have to worry about coming to a meeting like this. But those who are working for us are going to have to make sure that we're staying in that budget line. So.
Well, and you know, I'm gonna say on that part too, a lot of times you order a part, you really don't know what it's gonna cost till you get the bill in there, so you can't, there again, unless you're stalling things out to run up every little bid, you just can't, anyway, in practical things, you've gotta do stuff and keep it moving just like you did.
Yes, sir. But the reason the reason you were able to ask that question is because we did something out of order, and the right order would be to be able to project some of it. Like you said with the oil, once we saw the oil prices rising, we could probably guess if we're at 87% in gas and it's the 6th month in the year, we already know something's gonna be out of place. And so those little things like that do make sense, but this is over $35,000 in this particular line. We wanna make sure we're doing things in such a way that when people are looking, they can trust that we're doing things the right way every time. So today we need some more money in this account. Is there any more discussion? Those in favor, use the voting sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, use the voting sign of nay. Thank you so much. Ayes have it on resolution number 6322. Do we continue for the workshop or do we close out this meeting?
Close out the special meeting.
All right.
Please don't leave.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Consider yourselves dismissed. All right, now we're ready for our for budget. All right, so if we're ready to shift into the budget, I do want to recognize the presence of Attorney Ebony Gully, who is here on tonight. Attorney Gully is running unopposed in the upcoming election, and so we're happy that she is here to watch us with these monies tonight. So it's a pleasure to have you, Attorney Gully. Angela, clap with me. All right, thank you so much. All right, and let me say that we're going to try to cover as much as we possibly can tonight, and if we could be settled, we've got a couple of them. You'll notice highlights. So we're going to start on page 24. You'll notice that there's some highlights of things that we're either adjusting or changing. Otherwise, some of this is pretty much going to remain. All right. Let's go with the municipal building. All right, page 24. You notice on line 51110 for regular salaries. We're leaving it the same. Or we went. Our request is 26. Our request is 26. Okay, and you will notice at line 53290, the request has gone up to 2,000 on the municipal building. When you came in here tonight, I hope you were happy when you saw that we've been painting and sprucing up a little bit. Our building has been whitewashed. If you remember last time you came, our building was a deep dark gray, a charcoal gray. It's almost brown again, so we're very happy. And this is all being done by our own people. You can see where the walls have been wiped down with some pledge. And so we're doing a lot to get this building where it needs to be. It's an old building, but we're working to make it comfortable for us because some of us spend more time here than we do in our own homes. All right, so so we're really happy, and we could get this done with our own men, with our own personnel. So we got painting and everything going. Are there any? Yes.
For the 53290, office supplies, paper clips, that stuff, janitorial supplies, pledge, Windex, bleach, whatever. Operating supplies, what exactly does that cover?
It's like copy paper, that kind of stuff.
Wouldn't that be under
It's not
office?
really- Office supplies is paper, pens. Operating supplies is,
Toner.
yeah,
Toner.
paper and.
Okay. All right.
So when you ask, what 53100 had office supplies, and in 2021 they used 1450, right? And nothing any other time, right?
So did we just move office supplies over to operating supplies? Is that basically what we've done there?
The municipal building doesn't have really office supplies. Like, we don't buy pens for the building. We buy, each department buys, like finance, I buy my pens and stuff. But we do have to buy like copy paper because we all use the same copy paper, envelopes, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And are there any more questions then? Yes, sir.
I've got a couple. I would guess that the supplies there would be a lot of cleaning supplies that would go into
The janitorial supplies?
Janitorial supplies.
Janitorial?
Okay, that's a janitorial. I'm curious about the just above that, the 52,660. repair and maintenance building, there's a lot of these numbers that look like they really, I'm gonna say, just haven't been, given a lot of critique or investigation or whatever. We just say, well, this was the number last year, let's throw that number over there this year. And sometimes that's okay, but I noticed that repair and maintenance of building, we had budgeted $10,200 for this year. Apparently, we've only spent $3,
So
but
that,
we're budgeting $10,200 again.
so that won't be true.
The estimated column on it is I took where we stand now and what I think it'll be at the end of the year.
Right. So I'm just curious, we didn't spend near that $10,000 or this year.
Yeah.
Are we really gonna spend that much next year? I mean, has any thought been put into the repair and maintenance on that?
Well, we've got,
Give me just a moment. We just bought paint and some other items for this building. Just give me a minute. So we will be near the 10,000 before this year is out.
Okay.
We've been doing some other things and haven't concentrated so much on some of the things that we are doing to upkeep here now. We just got the building fixed, we just got the roof fixed at OPED. That's an on-the-job type of thing, so he couldn't be here and be there. And also, we just got the roof repaired at the city shop. In order for someone to oversee those projects, he couldn't be here. Mr. Wooten Mr. Wooten and Ms. Sewell and Mr. Williams are checking on this building, and he is also making sure that we are following codes and doing what we need to do in all the other buildings. Now that he's focusing on this particular building, we'll see a bill probably of about $5,000 to $6,000 by December, because we had to go out and buy the paint and the bill hadn't come in yet. Our own people are working, so it won't be labor, but that pledge and all that took to wipe down and the tape, all that's gonna be costly.
Okay, so the bottom line is, this $3,000 number that's put in here as our estimated year end is really not accurate. You're saying there's gonna be it'll be closer to the 10.
Before December, I'm believing it. Well, yes, sir. This is the line that the paint came out of, right? Yes, sir. It'll be much higher than 3,000.
So this is a fourth quarter project.
right.
But will we spend the same 10 next year?
I guess the question is, what do you have planned for next year as far as building maintenance?
So we got a door that's, it's not usable.
Mhm.
And it's a metal door, exterior door, and it's gonna be costly to get that repaired.
Okay.
And it's a lot of, I mean, it leaked around it right when the roof was leaking at that particular time.
Okay.
And so we want to try to get that door replaced. Another means of egress.
Now, we got the same, to me, question down at the bottom, 59,215. It says building improvements. We had a $5,000 budget. It's showing we've only spent $1,000. We put in $5,000 more for next year. I'm not sure, I'm sure you can come up with something to spend $5,000 on, but I just wonder if it has like I say, if we've really thought through what these things are for.
Well, we do have an issue of air quality. We're also going to change these lights to LED. Will you tell them some of our upcoming projects too?
We contacted the company that Entergy uses to retrofit to LEDs, and right now, James Benson and I, we're kind of gonna oversee that project. Entergy, the company Entergy uses, I mean, it may be 6 months before they get in here. And so we wanna go ahead and get all these light fixtures retrofitted. And if we can, right now, Public Works, they're not cutting grass. And so, all the painting install has been in a time frame of about 3 days. And so we had, and the pressure washing of the building. But some of these light fixtures, they're dull, and we need to go ahead and upgrade. It also helps us on our utility bills.
So between the 10,000 in one place and 5,000 in another, we can probably say that we've got some projects in mind for
Yes,
them.
yes, sir.
The air quality is an issue that we wanted to address, and that's gonna be quite expensive to address air quality.
Right. We have some of the offices that are on the outer edges of the building, outer perimeter of the building. When it leaked years ago, well, the stucco is all ballooned out. And so we're gonna get a contractor to come in and work on the stucco. We can't handle the stucco, but we're gonna get a contractor to come in, scrape the walls down and repair those dampened spots. So we've got some projects planned, and we're just trying to get them, while we got the help from, Public Works, we're just trying to get it in, while we can at this particular time. And plus, we'll have those guys with something to do. We won't be losing on any labor.
Dr. Wooten, how are we doing with the mold?
Okay, what we've done is, we contacted a company last year. They came out, they did an assessment. The only thing they found was in the vault. That's the only thing they found. They said that basically what we needed was a good cleaning, good thorough cleaning out in the main part of the building, but in the back there in the vault. Not in the vault, but in the
Old jail.
Old jail. That's where the problem was. And we want to get all those old records out, all those old files, we want to get everything out of there before we start treating.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Just, didn't we buy containers to put all those records in?
Right, we just hadn't made that transition yet.
So it's a work in progress?
It's a work in progress. Some of it is district court, and so we're trying to let district court get theirs, and then we'll get ours. I mean, it's not that, we don't have that many, just district courts. And I think they can destroy some of them or something, she was saying.
Was there anything we can do to motivate them to get this project done?
Well,
I understand what it's like waiting on others, so I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, we need to get it done and get rid of that mold problem here at City Hall, which will go a long way towards air quality.
Yes, sir.
So, we need to behoove them to have it done by the end of the year.
So they're short right now, so they just advertised for 2 positions that have not been filled. So I know right now they've been doubling up on everybody just to maintain the short people. So right now they're short to 2 people that are advertised, budgeted, advertised, and an application been submitted but not hired. So
All right. Do you have any more questions or concerns about the municipal? Yes, sir.
No, that was the question I had. I know we had talked about shipping containers.
right.
He asked the question, I'm good.
We have them on site, and we just kind of wait until we can get over this here.
So, Mrs., thank you so much, Mr. Wood. I spoke to Mrs. Robertson, and at some point, when we're talking about numbers, to be fair, she and I had considered what it would take to be able, now that our numbers are fixed, to put in a COLA. It doesn't have to be a fixed number for each year. It can be decided on if we decide to do something different next year. But I've asked her to look at that number. So when we're looking at these numbers, you would probably need to is the 1.3 already in this one? Is it already in this one?
No, I did not.
Okay, so at the end of it for personnel, when we get finished, she's going to show us or tell us what the impact numbers would be with a 1.3% COLA, because we asked everybody not to ask for more, and just now that we have the numbers to where lieutenants and sergeants, everybody's right in a good place, we want the whole thing to go up by 1.3%. So I want to be fair in the way we're looking at these numbers. So you saw 26,000, but it'll be 1.3 if we can agree, or whatever number we agree on. But I want to start fixing a COLA in, and they already know we can't keep up with inflation, but they do know that they'll know that we're trying to do something to assist. So that number is not a true number on the 26th, So you may want to put a question mark there for when we do get finished, if we agree to 1.3. But the rest of it, are there any more questions about anything else? Any more discussion about that? Can we move on to the next one? All right. Turn to page 27. Now we come to official code enforcement. All right, come on. We're ready for you again, sir. You have your packet in front of you?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, if you'll look for just a moment, you'll find that some of these numbers are numbers at the very top under that first 5,100. Those are numbers that many times, besides the salary, we don't have any power over some of those. So those are figured up by another type of computer that takes care of that. Where you see some of these highlighted numbers though, you'll notice that we budgeted this year for 51415. People found out about the health reimbursement plan, and some people have been using it. And they hadn't before, so now we're having to actually put it in there. All right, so that's the number 51415. So we're budgeting for things like that now that we haven't had to, because sometimes people just didn't know or just didn't follow through on it. So the RC retirement match, okay. Some of these are numbers we can't control. The one that you do see a change on, 57990, the refunds.
Right, sometimes, somebody come in the office, they may pay a permit fee or something, and then they may back out, and we have to give them a refund. Or there may have been some misunderstanding or something, we may have to refund.
What line item is that?
This one right here where you see the yellow.
57990.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a challenge, a question, or comment about any of the numbers on page 28 for code enforcement? Anything?
What about 52,350, the dues and subs and membership?
Okay, what that is we have to license fees, we have to renew, we have to have an electrical inspector's license from the state.
Plumbing.
Right, electrical inspectors, plumbing, building, we pay membership dues to the International Association of Electrical Inspectors, and also floodplain management, we have to take, so many credit hours a year for floodplain management, and so, and we also pay membership, we pay dues to these organizations.
I mean, it's not very much, but we're showing zero. I mean, you budgeted 1325 and we're showing zero. I'm just saying that number, a change.
Was coded wrong. We believe that when they turned in bill, they coded it to travel and training
Okay,
instead of the dues and memberships.
okay.
All right, so that one was miscoded. So on this particular one though, it's saying that we're asking for 5,000 again for next year, and we spent 2,500. Do we have any bills coming in for that?
Right.
She's got to take some classes too coming up.
Right, and we've got, Ms. Stewart has set some training for, administrative assistant and deputy code enforcement officer, so they'll be getting some training next year. And there's a couple that I haven't went to that's toward the end of this year. And so we wanna keep that at that level, because we need training in our department. I need training, and the only place to get it is get it abroad. And it help us do our job better and help us think better. We can't, being code officials, we can't think normal. We have to think out of the box, and so we gotta get that training.
Yes, sir. Let me take the furthest one first.
Well, I was just kind of curious, this, commercial building permits, being a 2,000 $2,000 cost, I thought that's money we collect. Do we have to pay for commercial building permits?
Well, we have to buy the electrical inspection tags,
Okay,
gas
okay.
tags, and.
It's kind of supplies and stuff, really.
Right, yes,
Okay.
That line item is what we send to the state each month. We have to send a percentage to the state.
We have to share with the
and
state?
That's what we,
Yeah,
that
okay,
line item
that's
is what
what,
we send to
We
the
should not
state.
pay for that train.
yeah.
What a shame.
Yes, sir.
Question, regarding the refunds. I understand, you know, it's like the need for refunds. I totally get that. I am curious though, like if I come up here and I get a building permit, let's say for $50, and then maybe the whole thing is just, you know, for accounting purposes, and then I say, oh, I'm not gonna build that, can I get a refund? And you hand me the $50 back, isn't that a wash
Well, it
account?
depends on the circumstances.
Okay,
It depends on the circumstances. If somebody comes in and do that, then they just lose that $50.
right.
Okay, but if there's some other circumstances that we look at, and then we'll refund.
Right. Well, my question is why, and maybe this is a Lauren question, why do we need a separate thing for refunds? I mean, from an accounting perspective and.
We've never budgeted for refunds in that department, but we always, each year, like you see this year so far, we've refunded $25.
Right.
It's normally not much, but we've never budgeted anything, so I suggested to do $100 so that we would have something in the budget.
And it is gonna be zero, and I agree with, Treasurer, so it's a zero balance, you're right, but on the line item for the budget income, it's gonna say $2,000 income, and then when Ben comes down and says, well, I need to write a check for $25, then the treasurer's gonna say, well, where is that coming from? And he's gonna say, well, it's coming from they just paid me the $25 2 weeks ago, but she can't write a check back out of that. I think once she takes the deposit, she's gotta have a line item taken
Our
out.
budget shows all the deposits on that front page.
Right,
All the income goes there. Anytime you write a check, it's gonna come on these other pages.
Right.
right.
So that's,
So basically this is just making it easier to issue a refund, is the purpose of
Kind of
this.
keep the books straight.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Quick question, on those refunds, do you have a time frame limit on?
If we make a mistake,
You're gonna cover it anyway.
they gonna,
Yeah.
we'll give them a refund.
But as far as me as a, just say a customer, I'm coming in, is there a time frame? Do I have a 30-day limit or 60
Well, if
days?
you come in, let's say if you come in and get a building permit, building permits normally run 6 months.
Right,
But if you wait to month 5 and you hadn't did anything, and you coming back saying you won't get a refund, you got it.
okay.
But if you came in today and we owed you a refund, the next day we'd probably write a check would probably be the Tuesday. That first Tuesday that comes up. It wouldn't be you're waiting in the hallway on us to write your check right this minute. You'll ask us for it, and that Tuesday is when you'll probably get it.
Right.
All right. Do you have any questions or any challenges at all? The pages 28 and 29? Thank you so much, Mr. Wooten. You've done a wonderful job. Stick around. I think you'll enjoy it. He's our recorder. At this time, we're preparing for the police department. Chief Bo Woody.
How are you guys today?
All right, man, how's it going?
How about yourself?
You're turning red, Chief. Turn that off so we can
Well,
enjoy
mine is really
ourselves.
simple. I used last year's. I haven't increased my
I
fee.
thought it was pretty close. Question.
The only one I looked at was the dispatch clerical, and I think that's a typo, because there's a little bit of a discrepancy in that pay, but it was the same as it was in 21.
It looks like we spent a little more in workers' compensation this year, and we are reflecting this year's request to allow for that.
Right. I don't have any control over that part.
Okay.
Same thing with Lofty.
lot fee and all the medical, all that stuff.
Out of your control.
Mr. Robertson takes care of all that for me.
Where are we at with staffing?
We had our testing, cycle last Saturday. We are 3 short, and we had 5 pass the test, so we should be up to full staff on law enforcement officers, and I will be still short on the administrative side. I'm thinking 3 short in dispatch on civilians.
Let me ask the last item under this personal services, this $96,885, is that state money that came in that they paid the officers? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
That wasn't a budget, that was from a stipend from the governor.
Right, but we had
It
to
was
amend
all
we had to amend our budget to put it in there so you could
Right,
pay.
we had to come
Yeah.
through the city because it was.
I noticed it was 0 for this year, so we're not expecting it again.
Right.
So for next year.
Okay. Are we ready for page 32?
If you'll notice on the travel and training, we did bump that up from the previous years, but in 20 and 21, of course, COVID completely knocked out our training because you just couldn't go anywhere and get it. And you'll see we're slowly getting that back up to where we can get our officers back in there to do that training. And at one point in time, several years ago, training was only conducted on the law enforcement side, and we have started including our civilians in that training now.
So Chief Whittier has said that he really didn't do a lot of changes, upgrades here. I do want to make mention of the fact that he ordered 2 vehicles that have not made it in, and so we want grace for next year.
Well, that was gonna be a question that I brought up to the mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving too
I don't
fast.
know how to solve that, so I did order the 2 SUVs from Jim Golden, and they might not be here by the end of the year. Will that carry over? We placed the order and everything. I don't know how that works.
So would that normally come out of the capital outlay?
Yes.
Public safety? So it would not, so it shows we spent 21, and so we were budgeting 65, we've only spent 21, so that 40 is probably for the SUVs. And so what would happen is like next year, it shows 65, it was requested right now, and as it's written right now, it would just be a new 65. So if the council wants to carry it over and say, you get the 40,000 for the SUVs for this year, and then you get another, your normal 65, then you really need to add, that's gotta be added for next year, because at the end of this year, if it's not spent, it doesn't automatically carry over.
The money stays in the savings account, but we have to
No,
budget it
funds are
for,
in the savings
we have to budget it for a double up.
Correct, that would have to be rebudgeted, so that would just be the chief pointing that out, that, hey, those funds are still
Yeah.
in the account, we haven't used them, we want them to carry over, and then you have to budget $100,000 or something.
But the issue is that vehicles are on backlog, so he's ordered them. He can't receive it. But years ago, they used to buy the vehicles a different way. They decided to just do 2 per year now. And so he wants his 2 from this year so that he can start moving, keep his fleet rotating. In order to keep that fleet rotating, he's asking, would you consider tagging that on for next year so that he can get the other two and start sliding these out? And so let's talk about it, please. Yes.
Did you not get, like an internet receipt that basically tells you how much you've spent, that we could turn in as sort of a placeholder for this year's vehicles?
I can get a buy order from Mr. Golden if I need
Right.
to. He placed the order.
Well, we could put that in the
We have a
books and say,
resolution.
okay, this is
Right.
tentatively what we've spent,
Right.
and we're just waiting to take delivery. And then, wouldn't that cover us? No?
No,
I mean, it would show how much, I think, actually, I guess it looks like, so we budgeted 65, I think I was looking at the wrong line, we spent 8,500 so far, because that's odd. So we probably got 57 left, and does that cover
We
both?
were able to purchase.
Or is it one in
equipment,
each
like
category?
the blue lights and the cage and all that goes inside the vehicles, but I
Don't have
know
the
when-
vehicles
When
around.
I asked him last week, he don't even know when.
So we would know the amount, so if we said like the amount's $55,000, what the council would do is add 55 to next year.
Okay.
Now, what may happen next year is vehicles in March, those vehicles may not come until the following year. So I think the chief wants protection, well, he doesn't wanna lose it. On the other hand, that's kind of the way the budget is set up, it's usually lose it at the end of the year.
Well, and I guess I'm asking you, do you have an idea of what your cars for next year would, or a price on, because that's gonna, I mean, to put in a number, we kinda know what we're expecting for these delays on this year that may not come in, they might get here in December.
They're gonna stay the same. I did go to him and get a quote,
Yeah,
not a bid, but just a
yeah,
quote on
yeah.
the
Just so we can
2023,
plug it in.
and they were the same.
Now, and I'm trying to think how these work, we have these capital outlay, public safety, and yada yada, and then equipment of these categories, because some of that stuff can be bought with the capital fund, and some of it has to come out of just the regular general fund or something,
I think
forget
we
how
do
that
one
works.
vehicle out of capital outlay,
We
auto,
divided
and
it.
one out of public safety. Does that sound right?
Okay,
Right, we divided one car, that's when Jim was still here. We put one car in a capital outlay and the other one was in,
okay,
Well,
Public
one's
safety.
public safety and one's just auto.
right.
Right, that one up above there, that 59,440, and then 59,
480, 460.
460, yes.
all right, so,
So we budgeted 65 in each.
yeah, 59,440, okay, so, yeah.
I think that's the two.
So we'll probably have 65 or so for next year's at least, it may be 70 for next year's models, and 50 something for this year's.
Well, he gave me a quote that they would be the same next year.
Okay, all right, so, anyway, we just gotta add 4 of them in there and put them in the budget.
Well, you know, and of course, all the officers and other people have asked me, why don't I buy them somewhere else? And I would prefer to wait and stay local, if that's okay with the council.
Okay.
He's already been awarded the bid for 2022,
Right.
and I would like to just continue that, because I'd like to stay local with him.
And to be fair, there is a shortage of vehicles everywhere, so
Yeah.
it isn't like it would be easy to find
Yeah, you
somebody.
just drive by a lot, you can tell. A lot of the departments, and even like last year, we had to order civilian model cars to get them. But then this year, we really wanted to stick with the police package cars, and, it's just hard to get them anywhere, I think. And I would just prefer not to go to Little Rock.
Well, right, I think that's good. If we didn't do that, we'd have to rebid and go somewhere else and start all over. So is there I guess we're kind of waiting to see, is it possible they would still come in this year? So if they come in.
Yes, they could come in.
Take them out of this budget.
Yes,
And
yes,
if by
sir.
the end of the year, when they pass the new budget,
Yes, sir.
in,
We can reduce it.
depending on when we're doing it, then the council would say, oh, we haven't spent it. They could
Yeah,
add it
there's a
in.
great possibility we could have them by this year.
If not, they could add it in for
Hopefully.
next year.
So I'm thinking for making my notes, I'm gonna say that capital outlay public safety item 59,460, I'm gonna take that 65 that we planned for 2023 and add 55 to it.
Wait, would this be for the capital outlay public safety or the capital outlay auto?
I'm guessing public safety, I don't
It's
know.
both, but each
One
one's a
each.
car.
Okay,
Oh, each one's a car.
Yes.
yeah, so we have to split that
The
55
capital
up.
outlay auto is one vehicle, and then the capital outlay public safety is the other vehicle.
Okay, all right.
I don't know why Jim did it like that, but that's just, he did that years ago, instead of doing them on one. I don't know why.
Well, it has to do with that source of funding, out of that
Right.
public safety fund we created.
All right, is there any more discussion?
Can I run back a minute? I kept looking at that training, chief.
Yes, sir.
Do you have, if there are any travel and training here concerning the extent of the expansion of gang activity?
I'm sorry.
Is there any of this training that addresses the extent of the expansion of gang activity?
I had 2 officers that just went to that class last week in Little Rock, Arkansas, yes, sir.
So we feel we stand abreast of it, and I know it's hard.
Right, it is.
I've been looking at it pretty close.
And also Plest, who governs our certifications, they've had increased our training from 18 hours a year to 25 hours a year mandatory. So in those mandatory training is such things like racial profiling, domestic violence. Some of them are mandatory, but we
Yeah, they
also-
highlighted pretty good on
Yes,
those.
yes, sir.
So, are there any more observations on page 33? I know on page 34, you've already said that you were 3 people shy, but you had 5 to test,
Yes, sir.
to pass the test.
Yes, sir.
And so we're expecting, hopefully out of that, we'll have a surplus anyway. That'll be on a list that we could choose from if someone else should leave, anything like that. So,
We are looking so much better. I think across the nation, law enforcement has kind of picked back up out of that dip of where we were at several years ago. And we're seeing an increase in people wanting to be law enforcement. And if you look at my stats, it's obvious that they're one of them, like they're 21 years old.
Yeah.
Which, 15.
all right. Is there any other question or observation so far? What about on page 35 then? We're looking at capital outlay again. Where are we on the, tell them about the generator, tell them about the lights, the upcoming things for you?
So we passed the budget, I think, in
Last year.
a long time ago. And we are waiting on advertisement, I think,
For the generator?
for the generator and the lights.
Okay. So we're gonna get that out this year's budget, so if it's got anything to do with my office, it'll be done tomorrow, so, okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Oh, no, sir. Like I said, for the most part, I just took last year's budget, and I think if you'll look at the numbers, we did our best with overtime, and with fuel. I know it went up, but the bass watches are down a little bit right now, so hopefully our numbers will be right next year. We are projected this year to be just undershoot what we're supposed to do. So I think we're gonna be fine.
Let me ask a question, and I may need to speak to Lauren on it, because I remember that we passed an ordinance resolution to take the ARPA money and pay for, buy that generator system. And I don't see it in here. Did that come out of is that going to be charged to the ARPA fund? Is that where this gonna come, or is it gonna show up in the police budget?
It was in that, revenue replacement line item under non-departmental.
Non-departmental, okay. Okay, won't show up in the police budget. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, and wasn't so bad, was it? At this time, we're going to call up our very own Chief Ron Nash, who is with our Camden Fire Department. Good evening.
Except for over the capital outlay, there's not a whole lot of changes, I was there to go through and what I've got highlighted here, on the lofty salaries, they're basically gonna be the same, they will go down a little. I've always went in, and as far as I try to project who's gonna be sitting in what seats for the year, for next year, for the promotions and whatever, so, it'll change a little according to what training they got. It basically stayed the same. You'd think it might have went up a little bit, it didn't. It stayed the same. Went what, $400 maybe difference in that. The volunteers pay, I put in a request. We're estimated to spend around $8,000 this year. And I put in for 7. I thought I need to come up off at 4,500 a little. With the people I've got some that are actually active, which we've been for a long time not having that many active volunteers, but I do have a few that are active. You can
What exactly is volunteer firefighter?
volunteer firefighter,
Yeah.
it just basically, he has to have the minimal training, PPE, wildlands, and intro, to even be on the fire scene.
Right.
He's a volunteer, it's a paid volunteer, we do pay them a little bit for coming to the fires.
Right.
And everything, but by the time they spend their time, their gas and all that, it's more, turns out to be more of a reimbursement.
Okay.
We've always been got 3. They just don't volunteer like they used to. And they're trying to find those that will go through and actually get the training. You're asking a lot of somebody to do something for a little about that.
My dad was a volunteer firefighter for years, so I understand.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, we noticed that it's the places of yellow that some of the changes have been made in particular. So those of you who were in agreement with the budget last year may want to find out why he didn't go up or down on some of the other ones, higher or lower. Are there any?
I know, as we go through this, the way we're seeing to be doing this on contractual services, some of this in repair and maintenance, and vehicle, some of it looks low. I've just now got some expenses that's gonna come at the end of the year, like they are this year is, I've got every truck has to go and get a yearly service done on it. They'll also do a yearly pump test on it while they've got it up there in Conway, and we're right in the process of cycling those out. We have our hose test at the end of the year, so that's gonna be some replacement hose that'll be coming through. We have our, another contractor in there will be the yearly ladder test. They'll come through about November and test all the ladders. So those are stuff that happen, but they always happen toward the end of the year. I know some of those lines look a little short, but I do know we're gonna be eating at some of that.
Chief, how are we, coming with the, new fire truck that we purchased, still being
fire-
proven out, or?
Yes, sir. It should be totally completed by the end of the week. They're flying out Monday. They'll be down there for a few days to sign off on the truck. Assistant Chief Purefoy, and then right now it's 1 or 2 guys. One's got some family members got some bad health. So, but one of the other guys will go. The company pays for it and all that. The whole expense be no expense to the city. They go down there, sign off on it, and when they go through the whole truck and sure everything's what we asked for, then it'll go from there and it's gonna go to Conway for probably about a week. And we're sold out of Conway, that distributor, and they'll go through the truck.
Right.
So I figure we'll get it, hopefully no later than the middle of November.
Okay.
By the time everybody goes through it and does that, and then we've got those sitting up in there in Conway waiting on it right now to get on the trucks. Hopefully by the middle of November, and it was situated at Brandington, Florida, which was halfway between Tampa and Fort Myers. Where they were located, they got no water in the building. That's one of the first things I asked the next day, trying to get hold of somebody. Please tell me that truck's not sitting in front of water right now. It's fine.
All right, yes.
I do notice, for capital outlay auto, we have nothing this year, but we do have $345,000 for capital outlay equipment.
Next page.
On 38. Sorry, I'm on 38.
Okay, you want me to go ahead and go to 39?
That's where it is.
Get the next page over?
Yeah, 39.
Yes, sir. I've got, it's more or less bringing to attention that we've discussed it some in different meetings. Trying to bring it up to the city council's decision. I know weather signs have been talked about before. Y'all don't mind, you got some piece to look at. I know a decision doesn't need to be made now, or y'all might make the decision now.
What are we handing out?
I'm handing out some paper on the, weather sirens.
Oh,
This one here, you've already got in the email, Mayor. You'll recognize it. This first one, I've got one of the officers that is communications and weather sirens, and that's the status and the condition. I got that from him today, just want to be sure to get accurate on it. Of the weather sirens that we do have. The problem with the weather sirens that we have is age, outdated, some of them are civil defense sirens. The ones that the new ones were bought from Little Rock and put in when they got rid of them and went to something else several years ago. And here's the estimate. And it's gonna have a date on it of May of this year. We've been working on this for a while. But I called them again yesterday to be sure. Nothing's changed. This is the same one I've already sent to you. I was expecting them to say different, but he says the estimate's good.
so everybody understands we're talking about these,
The weather sirens.
the weather sirens around town. You see how many of them are out of service?
We are older mechanical, omnidirectional sirens, two are older unidirectional sirens, and two are electronic loudspeaker sirens. Sirens currently operate on two completely incompatible systems activated manually from central station. This means that if the department is on a run or not in the station, that the sirens cannot be activated. Somebody has to physically be there to activate it. A new system could be set up automatically when the National Weather Service issues a warning. It could have battery backups that would continue to operate in case of power failures. It could also be used for various other alerts, hazmat incidents, evacuation notices, etc., due to its voice capability. So to have audio on it also. To where if you had, say, the railroad track down here, you had a chemical spill or something, one of the trains coming through, you could give out announcements to tell people to hold in place or to evacuate to the east or whatever. They'd have that capability also. But it's something just to bring it forth toward the council to look at and decide what direction we want to go. I know one time there was discussion about just let them play out as they play out and then go to code red. Code red doesn't seem to take off like we thought it would.
So, question, is this to replace all of these?
Yes, sir. A whole new system. Our system and our weather sirens are, old's not even the word for it. Like I said, some of them are civil defense sirens.
Doesn't cover.
It's pretty poor shape. And then finding anybody that you can even get to work on is almost impossible. The one elderly gentleman that did do it no longer does it. And you just can't find anybody who wants to work on it. Yes, sir, Mr. Moore.
Okay, if I'm looking at this right, we pretty much don't have any warning system in the west-northwest sector.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You what now, sir?
In the west, what I'm calling the west-northwest sector, that's Lincoln Center to the Brook Street, Washita County, Water Tower, Ridgeview Road, West Washington, Palisade Drive. There's nothing in that sector.
You have one over there by Ken's Discount. Then you have one up Ridgeview. The one at Ridgeview is one that's intermittent. It'll tone and try to come on, and it won't complete the cycle out.
Right.
The one that was at Palisade, and this goes back to a few years ago, and I remember sitting in.
That's when we was kind of jockeying them around.
As they went out,
Yeah.
take them out. So the one at 2 is gone, the one at Palisade is gone.
And that
You can
puts
see
everything
one
in
had
that
been taken
northwest
out, but
sector.
they don't work. I'm not saying it's not totally impossible to get them to work, but first you gotta find somebody that'll even work on them. And then investing the money, I don't know if it's gonna be worth it, putting a Band-Aid on it.
Couple of questions here. Now, if I'm looking right, we've got 5 that are operating, 5 that are not operating, and 1 that's not even counted because it was removed, that one in Palisade. So we've got 11 towers, or mounts, I guess you'd say, for these things. What, am I,
There was
at one time.
There was 11. But the one in Palisade, he's got it listed on here, I guess, it's no longer there.
okay, the tower's gone and everything.
Nothing's there.
Okay,
It's
all right, so
totally-
we're back to talking about 10.
10, yes.
And
yes.
on this thing, it's got, this bid sheets, it's got 6 of one thing and 1 of another, a total of 7 one-way digits. So I'm trying to think, well, wait a minute. Or if we've got 10 towers and we're buying 7 pieces of equipment, is that,
Right, they can cover the same area with fewer
okay,
sirens.
Okay.
Compared to what it used to take and what it did take.
So they knew and
then,
improved.
He even made a note in here, Captain Morris did, that, that they're possibly, as they get them in, and they've come out, they've done the map thing and all that, look what areas would cover and what it would take. But that you could probably come in, and they even said that if there were some little areas that wasn't quite getting what you wanted, if you wanted to, you could come in and put a smaller siren just to cover this little area at a lot less cost.
So he's basically trying to, and I think I understand what he's trying to do, give us less, but with the amount of decibels that they would put out,
Yes.
strategically put them out there.
Yes.
That's right. That is right. And that's like a quarter, yes, sir, $250,000 right there,
Well, it's,
277.
yeah, actually, I think my 300 may be a little shy. That's something, because I know this is
Tax
something
not
I'll think
included.
about, talk about, come back later and do. But by the time my mistake on it, the taxes, we asked for 300, I went on to 300, and then he reminds me, he says, Chief, you're not looking at that right. I said, what do you mean I'm not looking at that right? He said, there ain't no taxes on it.
Yeah.
I said, oh shoot, we're $7,000 short. But
Yes, sir.
The final listing on here is the software maintenance. Can we assume that $1,600 is gonna be annual?
sure, yes, sir. Well, now, that's not included in the thing here.
It's on page 2.
Yes, sir, but it's not, I think that's a service that they turn around and offer, but you notice in the right, it's not listed.
Yeah, it's not listed out at the total cost.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think we would want to look at that, but the 2277 that's listed here is basically really and truly just the front page.
Right.
So we're certainly right at the 300,000
Oh, yes.
if we put all this together, so you're correct.
Plus tax.
And he said the taxes at the 277 would be approximately $7,000, right? All right, so we're at 300,000, real easy.
I would say actually probably I'll put in at least 310, 315 if the city wants to go this route, and if that's what you want to do.
So what are the other options? In this, are there other options?
We've got the code red, but I mean,
So this is the option.
what we've got now is just gonna be strictly an audible siren that's gonna go off. What we can come back with, if we go something like this, is not just an audible siren that goes off, but it can also have voice messaging in there that explains why it's going off. And you can even go in there and somebody can even actually send a message live right off of it. So you've got that capability on top of this, not just the siren going off.
So we could theoretically say there's a tornado at Walmart, take shelter.
Yes, you can send messages. You know, one of my, like I said, to me would be a biggie is the railroad here.
Chemical spill,
Yeah.
something like that.
You can tell people to hold in
Shelter in
place, you can tell
place,
people to
yeah.
evacuate to a
Right.
certain area. You consistently send that message over and tell people, or do not approach this area, or whatever.
Yeah, Stamps just made statewide news about a month ago for a spill from a train. Sure did.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I got a
Yes.
question, and it's just one of those, there again, where we have to make these judgments of where to put your money. And if you were asking your firemen, and I'd ask you too, you probably have asked them, so if you had a choice of sending $300,000 for a alarm thing, or $300,000 for a new truck of some kind, which one do you think would be of the most benefit to the citizens? Because that's our choice.
Well, past history other than in the 70s, we'd say it's rough. But that's looking back. You know, if we were to hit with a big tornado right here next year, we'd think we should have spent it on that. That's
Aren't we already paying for code
I
red?
know a bunch of them are gonna jump out and say truck. I mean, because that's what they use every day.
Well,
And we're one payment away, I think, from being finished paying for the truck already, right? Are we? Yeah, we're almost finished paying for the truck with the ARPA money. Yeah, so that won't be much of an issue in one more payment, I think. But in forward thinking, like he's saying, if people are not jumping on the bandwagon with the code red, and this one has so many more different options, if we're not going to make that decision now, we need to start budgeting for the next phase, because we won't have long without that, excuse me. And there have been people who literally call here because when there is a tone, they're not getting them. They're not hearing anything, and they're recognizing it. So the sirens aren't working. So we want to make sure we're at least planning if we're not moving in the right direction, in that direction right now. You want to say something?
Yeah, first thing, I do like this idea. Would like to see more specific numbers, you know, with it, before a final decision's made. I think that 300 should at least stand for now, and we can amend later if needed. Why does the fire department need a rescue?
Okay, we've had, it ends up being more of a recovery than rescue, to be honest, but there are situations, Dr. Nunley's one I think of, some others that we've performed rescues and stuff. The one we have is several years old, and it's just old, beat up, the motor is old, and it's constant just to keep it going. Especially in light of what's taken place this last year while we dealt with, I think it's something we really need to look at.
So basically, this is an investment for the next 15 years, basically. Okay.
And I've got, right here, we had a committee put together, been together for several months on the boat, and I've had them sent out to like 5 different manufacturers. Get anybody.
They asking you the right questions, I see on there. I didn't, I don't know if I was prepared.
I believe we can get it cheaper than this without a doubt, but we're not trying to get a fishing boat. There's a lot of things on a fishing boat we don't need.
I was about to say, how many bass
But
can you
it's
keep
like
in
pulling
the
time teeth.
Will Bo not let you use the party barge that the police chief has? The chief has a party
We're
barge.
partnered with it.
He's so nice, isn't he?
I think council has.
And we've had,
Regime.
through federal surplus, we've been watching it. We thought we had one that we were gonna turn it, be able to buy, do some work on, get a brand new motor, get on it and everything else, and then another city beat us to it. Forestry Commission, we're still on this. They've been looking for probably 6-7 months for us and they found nothing. Do we keep waiting to see if we can pick up something along the way, or do we want to invest in a boat? And the older boat that we've got, we're planning on keeping it, just trying to keep it as a backup and whatever, just keep patching it, doing what we can.
And we haven't had much success with the old one. We have the team down there. They actually clean everything, check everything out. They're actually doing maintenance and stuff with what they have. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And in this particular instance, we have met a little too many frequent incidences at this river at this time. We need to be prepared to where we're not asking for help of simple materials, not material, of the actual equipment that we need to save a life. And it's embarrassing to show up and you cranking and you can't crank, that's embarrassing. Especially if a family is depending on you to be the answer to that challenge. And so this one, of course, we don't have low dollar items for the stuff that these guys use. And I mean, I'm sad to say that when Public Works come, we need a jetter to start cleaning out that. We don't have $50 and $100 problems. And that's why you guys are here to help us to sort through and say, well, which is more important? What do you want to invest in now? What can wait? That's why it's important that we come here with our thinking caps on to ask the right questions so we can come to the right conclusion. But when it comes to safety in the community, that's one of the main jobs I have is that conservative of peace and safety. This is something that really counts. But I can't weigh that against the sirens. And so we got to keep working and keep looking. And like he said, he's tried to find it another way. We can't move fast because we're in bureaucracy. You have to follow certain rules and certain guidelines before we can make purchases over a certain amount. And with that being said, we're doing what we can. We just need you guys ask, I guess, a couple more questions so we can figure out what we're ready to do to be ready for whatever lies ahead for us. And we can't plan drownings at all.
Let me ask the chief
Yes.
another question. I was curious, there's a boat manufacturer up at Fordyce. Now, just notice when I go by, I don't know if they make the kind of equipment that you're needing. That's different duck hunting boats, I guess.
They made one for the sheriff's office, Havoc. One guy who was very close to that. I asked him again a couple days ago, he has not been able to basically get anything, and he has tried several times. Not saying he's not gonna keep trying. That was our first thought, it'd been nice if it was right there, and then we could turn boat,
Does the government
some wheel work.
the government surplus unit taking that, army stuff? Out of
The federal surplus up there, they had actual 3 Coast Guard boats that come up there. And we tried to jump on them as soon as we saw them come up, and they already had some other cities down. They put our name to follow them if they didn't come. We called back, they said, we don't think they're gonna come and get them. So we were thinking we were gonna get them, and then turn around and they came and got them.
Yeah.
And the boats looked in good shape. All we would have had done is got a trailer and a motor, and I think we've been ready to go.
There's a lot of boats.
Had-
There's a lot of boats in Florida right now.
So that was a cheap shot. Yeah. All right. So here's what I've one question, not for you, but for our panel. Are we finished with the? All right. So you may take a seat. I'm just going to ask a general question. Some years ago, some of you who are historians here and have been here for a little while, there was a 1.75 tax that we operate on, and that 1.75% tax. 0.75% of that goes directly to police fire, but there's another 75,000 that I understand that should have been written over to public works. Can someone help me understand? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm trying to.
Yes, I think that there was a 75 baseline that was added to the general fund, and a 75 baseline that was added to equipment for public works.
Okay, is that every year, or was that for the year that it was written?
It's a direct
The sunset.
allocation of that tax that goes into our budget each year. When that sales tax money comes in, it's spread out into these different categories so that we had money for capital equipment at the general fund and the police and fire.
And it wasn't included in the general fund, so it was a reserve account, that's what it was.
Right.
75,000 reserve account,
Yeah.
couldn't be spent, couldn't be used until it reached 10% of the, last year's budget. So 75,000 goes to the reserve fund and 75,000 to public works. So that should be going in public works,
Every year.
I believe so.
So that answers.
I sent the resolution to you the other day. My understanding from the resolution was it was just 75,000 to get it started. Cause I can't find anything where it's been done every year.
So we want when it comes to our community, a lot of the people in our community get really excited about police and fire to help us to do things for them. But of course, the public works, we need a jetter. We need those ditches cleaned out before storms happen, instead of chasing behind the storm when it does. And so that means that we have to have a regimen in there already where we're already doing it. The water department doesn't have a jetter. Or theirs isn't working properly or something else. Whatever that is, we need a jetter. And it's about $700 and something thousand to get it. But we got to get these holes cleaned out. I was over at Harrison and Cleveland. No, I'm sorry. I was over at Cleveland and Jefferson, I think it is, and we were pulling beach balls out of the manholes and stuff like that, where people have, they don't know why they're clogged up. They don't know why their street is flooding. We do. If you stop putting these beach balls down in this hole, it probably wouldn't happen. But we were there pulling stuff out, and it was so much stuff, it got to be fun. I wanted to pull some out myself, so I went on here. But we need to be prepared for upcoming bad weather, and in order to do that, I needed to know. And so it is the consensus. Oh, you need to look again?
Right, I'm saying that's been
A long time ago.
18, 17 years ago or something.
Well, 700.
We'll have to go back to look at that. I know.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the question would be, I think you're conflating two things, but one is, when the tax was dedicated, that's different from the rest of what the council's expenditures are, where the council has to make a decision, okay, we need to have equipment ready for public works, and we need to have funds ready, but that's separate from the question of when the tax was passed, what were they told it was being passed for? So whatever was on the original ordinance, we're stuck with that, and we just need to go back to verify what was in it. I just can't, tell you off the top of my head.
But I was asking because our conversation was, and she said she's sending it to you if she hasn't. But the challenge that we were going through was that she said the 75,000 that was going over to public works, according to that ordinance, was for the one time, and she didn't think it was supposed to be done each year. And I'm asking that if it's done each year, then that is a good, that means that Public Works is not getting nothing more out of it.
It would, well, the reason I tend to, well, my question would be to go back and look at the budgets that were immediately after that passed.
Okay.
So instead of just reading it in blank from scratch, and then go back and say, when that was passed in '03, I think it was, is, okay, what happened in '04, '05, '06? Because that's gonna be right, I mean, it was accurate, it was fresh, but it was worded a little bit different in that, the percentages for police and fire department are based 55%, 45%. There was not a percentage for public works, that I
Right.
can say. So it's not a percentage, that would kind of indicate it was a one-time, amount. But we have to look at it.
Well, I was gonna just mention, I've got the budget here from last month. And this is the way it's been, I'm gonna say ever since that was done. This is in the general revenues for taxes. And we have line items that says public safety, fire, sales tax, 0.425%, okay? Public safety, police sales tax, 0.495. And the next item is public safety capital outlay, 0.08. So there's your 100%, but it's all broken down in a revenue stream of where those are supposed to be directed. I mean, and that's the way it's been set up in the budget since 2000 or 2002, whenever we did that.
But if you remember, we had a big discussion here about, I asked, why didn't we have a sunset clause? And there was no sunset clause.
No.
That's correct.
All right, so we can find out if the 0.08% is what they're getting each time.
Correct.
Okay, and so if that's what's happening, then they are getting some monies to help them, because, yeah, all right.
Something we might just have to add to.
Yeah, we need to make some decisions, I guess, before he comes before us. I'll have a proposal on how to move forward. Like I said, none of these machines, he needs a back end, a front end loader. He needs, some of these machines are actually from the 80s, and I'm not exaggerating. And it's hard to find parts, and it's hard to find new parts now because of what's going on in the economy, but it's hard to find those old parts in particular. So I want to say thank you so much. Is there any other discussion tonight in our workshop?
Yeah, one thing.
Question? Yes, sir.
When do we
Oh,
do-
tech building.
When do we do, well,
Sir?
we get tech building, and
Tech
then
building.
when do we do it again?
Hey, I have a comment about
Okay, yes.
The one that I put in your binder tonight, different than the one that was sent out in the packet. We made some changes. We added that person.
All right, so I need to grab a new one then. I need to grab a new one because this is mine that I already had, right? Did you give me a
The one
packet?
I had laying in your spot. The binder that I had laying in your spot.
All right.
Last page.
There's no person on mine.
Yeah.
Is it?
Are we talking about the regular salaries?
Administrative.
Yes.
Administrative assistant?
Page 58. No, I laid mine up before I left tonight, so I'm gonna take his. All right. Okay, now, okay, yeah, I don't have this. Okay, so if you'll look now at page 58, you'll see that we've added, we've had to add personnel here. And the reason is because up until now, thank you so much, gentlemen. Up until now, the street maintenance has been giving up a position of a worker to cover a person down there at the tech building. And we're asking that you would consider all these would be new numbers, as you see on page 59. The top section, those would be brand new numbers. And so I'm willing to defend the ask on today, but all the numbers under that are pretty much the numbers that we've already had to have. So, but I'm asking for a position to be there, and we're going to move our public works back to that building now that it's fixed. We're getting the bathrooms and stuff like that back where they need to be. But basically, they're almost ready to go back to their own building. And we've been able to keep our building generally rented out. So that is it's a big ask, and so I'm ready to talk about it.
Well,
Yes, sir.
let me ask, are you saying, so this is someone from Public Works that's gonna be, remaining at the tech building?
No, sir, I'm saying give them that position for street maintainer back, and we go and get another individual
We
that,
hire somebody.
yeah,
New hire?
a new hire. Well, we already have a person, and that person's working, but they're getting paid from street maintenance, and he's not a street maintenance person, so we wanna, instead of taking his personnel, I wanna add that person to their own
So
payroll.
we're creating another budget position.
Yes, sir, that's what I'm
That's
asking
what
for.
we're doing.
It's another budget position. She's getting paid out of the wrong place.
Well, there's a difference between getting paid out of the place and if you've got a new body.
Still coming out of the budget.
Well-
Well, the budget, but yet, again, if you're gonna just take it and swap it from Public Works over to the tech center, you haven't spent any extra money. Now, if you're hiring a brand new person and you've still got the expense at Public Works and the tech center, we're out 25 grand
Right.
plus.
36 after
Yeah.
everything
Everything
else.
is
Yeah,
added.
so that's what I'm trying to say is, we're not just shifting an employee from one place to the other. Now, we're adding another 36,000 expense.
Yes, sir, and that's why I call
And
it
that's to
a
keep the
big
tech
ask.
center open?
Yes. It has a really good function, for our community. As a matter of fact, the location of it is so perfect that some of the people who utilize some of the services are able to walk right across the street. You have, 3 apartment complexes right across the street. We just allowed someone to use the building, on the other night who did free AIDS and HIV testing for any person, who came. So it's perfectly located to continue to serve in our community, particularly, in the daytime, particularly. And we just got the roof fixed. We're getting it to be one of the more better buildings that our city has. So we want to keep it moving, and we already have people renting. We have renters in the building, and we have a vision for upgrades down there also.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
are we operational there 7 days a week, or is it just weekly, 40-hour week?
It's a 40-hour week, however, for people who've been doing events at night, someone's had to be there from us.
Right, okay.
We can't, and a lot of people aren't off until 5 for the type events that some of them are hosting. But the trainings for nursing homes and things like that are still day trainings when they need them. The railroad used to come down there and train in the daytime. Several people use it in the day, but there are night times when there is a need for overtime for somebody.
Will we have a job description for this?
Yes, sir.
This spot?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
We already have an admin assistant position. We just don't have that position for the tech center, because the tech center started out as being just the building.
Yeah.
There's no person there.
Or you tell me just a name or scope?
Well, I'm trying to think, what do they do? I mean, we're,
They answer the phone. We have to have somebody there. If we're gonna have people in and out all the time, we have to have a person there. And, they answer the phone, and I guess they're, you probably know more about it than I do.
Yeah.
Present when we have people in the building.
and we're collecting rents.
We are collecting them.
And the only other thing that's not on here that I'm gonna suggest is overtime. Because when one of like the parks guys or something can't stay, we don't have any overtime budgeted if this person has to stay. So,
Well, let me also ask, we're collecting rents, is the rent we're collecting helping, how much is it doing to offset this salary?
No, it ain't offsetting salary. The business incubator is a service to our community, really, but it's always been that. It hasn't been the money maker for us. When we first got the building back, it was my desire to know how many buildings would it take for the building to be able to take care of itself. And in order for the building to be self-sufficient at that $220 or whatever it is a month, it would have took us at that time having 10 office spaces. I think that place is only built for 4 office spaces and a big room. So what we were going to do was redesign the big room, take the back, and make it into like something like a civic center, or and take some of the warehouse space and use it for that. And nobody wanted to go around the back of the building for an event, so I didn't know how to proceed without doing a public forum. And by that time we were in COVID, so there wasn't no need doing a public forum to hear the community fuss about that. Because even though we want a center, how we wanted something like a civic center, how we come to that would probably take 3 or 4 meetings, and so I just didn't do it at that time. We're from under COVID, we can start the discussion again. But
I think it's worth discussing because Camden is probably the only place I visit that don't have a public civic center, anything.
yes,
And it's not so much size sometimes, it's the availability of a building.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, that's a discussion that we really want to have, but they would have to. And then the other part to that conversation was that the part of the building where we were trying to make into the incubator space had been built by a particular grant. And because of that grant, we were waiting on a particular year to come before we could divide that up. So that was another underlying thought going on. Yes, sir.
Next year, isn't it?
It's next year, am I correct, Attorney Fry?
It's coming up. I mean, I would wanna look at it. That sounds correct to me. It's coming up.
But to be clear tonight, with the tech center, the reality is that we could take a position from street to do this. But I would rather wait without taking one if we could just maybe make this another discussion for later when Mr. Franklin is here. And if we could if he'd be willing to give that salary over, it may not take much of a discussion. But if they need the street person, then I am asking for 36 plus possible overtime. And we would be very mindful of when we allow overtime, especially in the first year, if you gave us that grace to do so.
Let me ask you about overtime. Is there much activity going on after hours?
The HIV/AIDS testing, the free testing was from 5 to 8. They get off work at 3 o'clock, but they couldn't schedule it before 5 because they wanted people who did work to be able to come. So that would be after hours. And once you get that building moving, like when people find out that's when people start asking us to do it. I don't mind opening when I can. Mr. Franklin, Director Franklin is on the clock. He can help with some of it. If y'all gave us an allotment of overtime, we know how not to go over it. If that means I got to open and shut it, or he got to open and shut it.
Yeah, but
because we're salary.
And I hear you. You know, with the AIDS and stuff like that. I mean, I thought that was maybe a one-time thing. That's not a.
But those are the kind of those are the kind of events that we've been doing. A lot of the 501c3 type of groups that are not that just need a place to offer a service
to provide for people when they get off work.
They don't have 1,000 places they could go in our city right now, and that room is a nice, clean room with cool or heat, whatever you need. And it's